Hey guys, how's it going? It's a day after a nice rainy day, and I've been doing my best to try to start getting up to some exercise. So I've been doing a bunch of mountain biking, but I'm paying for it. My back is really tight. So I was going to do some work on the pontoon boat, which I should be doing, but I'm going to pass on it for a day or so. Instead, I'm going to work on some upcoming projects for the winter, and you guys know that I like to build the bikes in the winter time, and I'm gonna start building some other ones, and I got one I want to build for myself, at least one I want to build for myself, but there's one or two that I may be building for other people too. But one of the ones I want to make for myself is, if you guys remember watching in the past, I grabbed these motors. These like old military EPU units. An EPU unit is a generator that they would run. It made DC, and it would be used to power all the electronics. I shouldn't say electronics, it's from World War II era. The electrical parts inside the airplanes to keep them all warmed up and ready to roll in case they had to bug out with a flight. So this thing would be sitting on the ground just kind of chugging away, and they would be plugged into this. But for me, I'm going to use it as a motor to power a bike. And I figured if I got a little bit of time, I can kind of go set the sucker on the bench, and I figured we'll just kind of go and whittle it away a little bit and see how small of a package we can make that engine, and see what size we can kind of shrink it down to see how it will fit in a bike and see how it will look and all that kind of stuff. I do like the way the cylinder head and everything kind of looks on it. And I did a video of starting these. We put a snowblower carburetor on it, and I got it to run off of this. These have an internally built governor. Basically, there's a door that kind of rotates open and closed with a governor to allow air fuel on and off. That's kind of the problem that I didn't realize at the time when I was putting it together. So we're gonna have to go and bypass that also. I believe it's right inside here. So we'll worry about that when we kind of go start stripping it down. But I figure this would be a good project for today. So I'm going to go clean off the bench, and we'll see what we can go disassemble. And a little side note, I was driving by, and somebody threw out in a scrap pile is a set of leaf springs from probably like a snowmobile trailer. But going with the bike theme, the very early bicycle, aka motorcycles, had a leaf spring front suspension, and I thought that bottom leaf would be just about the right size to cut up and make for a front suspension. It's not very big. You figure it's 2 fingers, not even 2 fingers wide. So that may work out just fine. And I got a whole bunch of mistakes in case I screw it up. There's basically 8 more sections to kind of go and chop off, so I'm going to add those to the hoard too. Alright, nothing gabbing. I'm going to get all this crap off the bench, and we'll pop that up there and see what we can whittle it down to. Alright, I popped the gas tank off. That was 1 screw, not that big of a deal. Then I took 5 screws out of the back of the generator part. I don't know how it comes apart, but that part of it, I don't care if it survives or dies, so if it gets broken, so be it. But I got some persuasion tools. I figure we'll just kind of rap on it and see if it kind of moves or does anything. That ain't gonna do nothing for us now, is it? Dent puller would probably work pretty good. Let's just give her. Something's happening. Looks like right in the center it's got a bearing on it, and the bearing is kind of what's holding it. So let's see if we can maybe shove a bolt back. No, I ain't gonna do it. It's got threads on the outside for a larger bolt. Let me go get a larger bolt, stick that in there, and give that a couple of taps. Let's see, actually. Kind of where you need 3 hands. Make that so it clears. I got to set some kind of puller up on that and we'll give it a shot. I'll be back. Let's try that again. That worked well. Actually, it did work well. So take it back. So I gotta figure out how to get that whole assembly off of there. I do see a nut. There's a nut right there. But how do you ever get a wrench on that? I know a lot of times what they do is they just run a bolt through the center of it, and the bolt is there's a tapered shaft under there, so maybe that's what it is. So I'll probably try sticking some sort of rod on the inside of that kind of clears whether it be the bolt or not, or something close to that, and then I'll cut it. And if you notice, there's threads on the inside of it, so we'll try to make like basically a spacer that goes inside there, and then we'll push off. Once you can get that to pop that whole assembly, and then I have a feeling once that's out of the way, then you access that nut. And then that nut will take off this flywheel. Alright, so let me get set up for that, and we'll see if that works for us. Alright, let's see if we can get that sucker to pop. I ended up just cutting the head off of one of the 4 bolts that were in there, and we'll see if we slide that down. I gotta put it in this way, not this way, because I'd be afraid it's just gonna thread itself into the hole. Shove that in there. I ain't catching by much. Hopefully I don't rip that apart. It's, hope I don't rip the threads out of the end of that. Let's see what we get. Yeah, that was a hard one. I'm starting to like military stuff. It comes apart easy. Looks like that'll do it, but I'm gonna have to just go put a spacer, another piece of rod or something in there. It backed itself off a good inch, but it seems like it's still on there. Yeah. I don't think it's even a tapered shaft. I bet you it's keyed. Yeah, there's the key right there. Okay, well I'll continue on with that. We'll get that out of the way. Alright, I made up 2 more little, about 3/4 inch looking jobbers. We'll keep shoving them in the hole. Eventually it should just push itself right off of there. The tail is right there. Alright. that. I already made it pretty much skinnier. Yeah, it looks like a nut that comes off next. And it's already down to about, from there we're going to guess that's about 15 inches across. I'd like to be able to knock it out. I'd like to get it down to about a foot. We'll see. Alright, I'm going to keep whittling. I'm going to get a socket on here. We'll take this off. And it looks like these 4 screws, there's 4 screws going around. The shroud should come off. Actually, I could probably take the shroud off first. Yeah, that's like a clear the fan. So I'm going to go pop that out of the way and then we'll see it. It's bolted to the base, so when I do that, the motor's going to come right off. Do I care? Do I care if the motor comes off? Alright, what I'll do is I'll take the exhaust off first, get that out of the way, and then we'll take those 4 screws off, then the motor can come off of the fan. We'll leave the rest of it sitting on the base plate, and then we'll work at getting the fan off. That's the plan. Right, see if we can go tap that muffler off. Just got a, looks like a threaded flange. I already took a nut off the back of the muffler, so this should be the only thing holding it. You know, they make a spanner tool for that. But so do I. It's called a screwdriver. That's that. It's weird. It's kind of like a double, probably like a silencer on it. It's got a muffler, and then it looks like it kicks into this guy and then comes out. And it's sealed on that side. Now what do we got? Getting pretty small. I would say we take this guard off. You guys looking at the same thing I am? Yeah, we'll go take this. There's a guard covering the cylinder head. We'll get that out of the way, and then the 4 screws can come off, and I think we can take the whole thing out as one unit. So, I'm on to that. I'll pop the spark plug out of it, just so that when it drops, I don't smash the plug off. And I tried getting them out with a screwdriver, and they were too tight, so I ended up sticking vice grips on from the side and just cracking them all loose. So the 4 screws are now loose. Good. Pop them out of there. Be curious with how heavy it's going to be too. The whole thing together, 60 pounds or so with everything on it. I'm hoping it gets down to about 15 pounds. The hunk of wood on the bottom is probably 10 by itself. That looks like a cool motorcycle engine to me. And notice that it doesn't have a separate cylinder head. You got to take the whole jug off as one piece. I was kind of hoping to build a decompression valve in it, so you can kind of get it spinning and then hit the valve. This thing's shutting it off too. There's my flashlight in my pocket. See the jug. That piston looks like it's probably, you can rotate it. Bear with me. It's domed. It looks like about 2 inches across. That's decent. You figure, like, for the old bike, you only really need about 2 or 3 horsepower. So we'll look in the tag later and we'll see what that says. But so you see about popping that fan off of there, and then we're going to go look into what that funky governor setup was and see if we can kind of get rid of that. Weight. Yeah, it's about 10 pounds right now. It's not bad at all. A lot of this stuff on the bottom must be cast iron. Yeah, that setup right there weighs twice as much as that. Alright, let's get fan be gone. A little squirrel cage. Get that sucker off of there with a... See if I can find a deep socket with an impact to go get rid of that. Fan be gone. And along with all of its other... That's all the crap that came off of it. And that's what we're left with. I got it sitting on a little Briggs cover. Just to, so it's not sitting on a shaft, but let's go see what we got for width right now. We are right at about a foot. I kind of like the flange that's on here. It would be better if it was in the center, but that's okay. All the old motorcycles, when you look at them, they kind of dropped a loop into the center of the frame of the crank. And it gives the correct look. And you're looking at that cylinder and everything, that kind of, all that has the right look again for what a bike build would be. Kind of give you an idea what I'm talking about. So this is like a, what is this, a Harley? I forget. But if you look, here's what I'm talking about. So there's the jug, has that kind of correct look to it, and then it has this round crankcase going around, and then they drop the frame down around it. So that's kind of the look I want to go for that same thing. It's just that what it's going to be is that circular piece is going to be offset to one side. And you know, those are very skinny motors. They're probably only 6 inches across or so. So I'm trying to work with stuff that's unfortunately wider. And you can see on this board tracker, that's the end of the crank right there on that side. And then the pull start kicks out on that side. And what that ends up making you have to do is take your pedals and offset your pedals really far away. And you can only go so far. I mean, if that was another inch or two wider, it's just going to get to the point where it's ridiculous. Where the pedals are just so far out that they're not even useful anymore. So, and I think this one, I want to say, is 12, like right to that nub right there. Let's see. We could probably add about another half inch to that side of that pulley, and whatever that comes out to. What are you guys seeing? I can't see it. I'm gonna say it's between 11 and 12 right there. And I was measuring from that lip, and you can see there's probably another half inch past that to get into that crank. So let's see if we can go get it a little smaller even yet. Sometimes it's hard to shrink up the electrical side of it too, you know, the Magneto and everything. It's going to take as much room as it's going to take. You know, of course I can take that off the end of it, but you still need a way to go start it. So I don't know. I think I am going to, what we're going to do is we're going to flip it up. Almost like it was made for it, huh? And we'll start taking this cover off, and we'll see what we need to kind of shrink this down to a smaller size. And there's that little flapping door inside there, as far as I've done my homework on so far. And what we can do to either get rid of that or tie it open, or what the process is. But carry on. Well, it just came off with a puller. And I got the Magneto out of the way. Trying to find a year on something in there, but I don't see anything. There's no mechanical advance or anything in there neither. So I do see a nut on that. I don't know what that is quite holding down, but it's got to be holding down something, or else they wouldn't have put it on there, right? So I don't know if it kind of holds the lobe of the cam on there. I don't see it being able to come up off and clear that. It looks like it's going to be too big. So that's going to have to come up. I wonder if that's timing. I wonder if you loosen that up, if you could rotate that cam underneath it to change the points. And there's just 2 screws holding this whole mag right on there. So I'll pop that keyway out of there and see if we can get a deep socket on that. We'll get that out of the way, take just 2 screws off, take the Magneto off, and we'll go in a little deeper. Hey, a little further. What that is, I was just kind of looking at it, timing and guesstimation purposes. Trying to figure some stuff out in my head. This, especially basically a 2-piece crank. This is the other half of the crankshaft. You can see, but flip you over so I can see if we're looking at the same thing. Inside here, as the crank rotates. So this is the intake of the carburetor, and this is where it would suck the air fuel mix in. And when it would start to rev, and that's timed. If you notice that window kind of goes and closes. You guys getting that? A little flip around. There you go. Now you can see the hole on top of it. And then as it turns, it shuts that off. So that's timed to just allow that charge to come in. So it's basically kind of working almost like a reed valve, a one-way door. So it doesn't kick back out the carburetor. So that kind of screws me in one aspect, is that I was kind of hoping I can rotate the intake around where I need it, but I can work with elbows coming off the carburetor to deal with that. But the governor that was built into it is this spring setup right here and little brass plates. So as this thing would spin, should turn the light on you. Where are you? All right, as that hole would spin, that hole's there, opening and closing, what it would start to do is block that off, and then the revs would just start coming back down, and then as it started losing it, it would open itself back up more. So as that spun, that just kind of worked as a counterweight to shut itself off. So I can either get rid of all that stuff or just kind of make it so that maybe I tie these together or something of that fashion. I could probably even maybe just cut. The thing I'm worried about is the balance. I want to throw the balance off. I could probably cut the brass off right there, and so there's no doors to be closed at all. And it would just work on a carburetor with a regular throttle. So that's what's going on with that. I'm going to pop that back together. I'm pretty sure it was facing this direction. I'm not positive. I think the intake was... You guys just saw it a second ago. You're like, no, it's going the wrong way. But I think it was facing that way. So my thought was, if I was to take the motor and mount the motor a different direction, instead of having it so that, let's say, gotta figure out which way it spins, but say it spins this way, and the back tire's back here. Instead of trying to put a pulley on here with a belt and whatnot, I was wondering if I could take it and possibly turn it sideways in the bike and take a gearbox and come off either side. Again, depends on which way it turns, and say maybe come off it with a gearbox and have the gearbox run out to the side to a jack shaft that has the pulley. And 2 things: one, it makes the motor skinnier, and the other is that this has a built-in gear reduction, so it's 5-to-1. So if the engine, say, revs out at 5,000 RPMs, this knocks it down to 1,000 RPMs maxed out, So, and then add, say in idle, say if it's running at 800 RPMs, it'll be 80 RPMs coming out of the other side. So it just makes stuff a lot slower to kind of go deal with as far as belts and all. This stuff won't be screaming. And when I can do that, it allows me to run a larger, if I go with a leather belt, It lets me run a larger leather belt, which would normally have a pulley. Probably, yeah, you know, the old bikes used not rev very high. They had a long stroke, but yeah, I don't think they went much over 2,000 RPM. And they had right off the crank a pulley about this side, and they just wrapped the leather belt right around it. So if I can slow a pulley down to that speed, and I get this much contact area for the leather will have a lot less issue slipping like it did when I tried doing that twin engine bike, which everything spun just that much faster. And I was trying to use a smaller pulley just to keep the gear ratios right. So I'm going to kind of contemplate all that and mull it over in my head. I was thinking possibly I could flip this over. I was thinking about the timing. I figure I can kind of tap off this cam, flip it over 180, then I should be able to rotate this around 180. But I think with the problem with doing that is the window would be still opening on the wrong side at the wrong time. I think it'll be 180 out. So I think it does two things at one time. I think it times the port for the intake and also times the spark. So if you do it, you got to do both at the same time. And again, I don't even know if that'll be an issue. I don't know. I can make elbows and run the carburetor wherever I need it. But I just kind of wanted to think about that. So, where does that leave me? Probably leaves me with just trying to put it back to I could disable that governor right away. And then probably just trying to get a carburetor of some sort on there and see if we can get it to run and idle on said carburetor. I should probably try to find a motorcycle carb, a two-stroke motorcycle carb that has like an air and fuel adjustments on it, and something that's probably, I'm guessing this is going to be like a 100cc motor, probably comparable to it, judging by the size of the piston. Like a 100cc dirt bike or a 125 or along those lines. Carburetor will probably be pretty good, so I'm going to go look in my hoard and see if I have anything that kind of fits that bill, and probably start with that. But I'm going to kill this one right here, and we'll continue this on. Again, this was just a side project where my back was a little sore. We'll let that get a little better. Kids have ever had back issues, you don't want to push your luck, you know. I don't want to push my luck. That's it, really. Can't think of anything else. Only other things I could probably add to it is I'm probably going to need some kind of flywheel. If I don't use the fan over again, the fan probably acted as a flywheel. I'm probably going to have to put some kind of mass on that motor anyway to make it be smoother, or else it's going to be very shaky and chunky if I don't. Oh, and it had the generator too. You got to figure it was spinning this mass the whole time also, you know, so that worked as a good flywheel to kind of smooth things out. And that won't be on there anymore neither. So, kind of like a lawnmower, you know, a regular single-bladed lawnmower. If you try running a lawnmower without the blade on it, you know, it runs like crap. It'll yank the pull start out of your hands, etc., etc. So, kind of the same idea with this. I have a feeling if you run it without any kind of decent flywheel, it's gonna let you know it doesn't like it. Alright, that's it, guys. We're shutting her down, and I'm gonna go see if I can hunt me a carburetor, and it may or may not be a continuation of this video right away, but this is probably what I'm going to go with for the first bike build that I'm working on. And just a little bit more information. One of the guys that wants me to build him a bike wants to use a twin engine Maytag motor, and so that would be the build. I told him to hunt down the motor, and he said he knows where there's several of them, and so I'm waiting to see him. I haven't seen him in about a month or so at some of the shows, and of course he has my phone number, and I was dumb enough to forget to get his. But I'm hoping to see him possibly tomorrow at one of the cruise nights that I see him at all the time. So, all right, I'm babbling. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care.